Isn't that a daisy?
You son of a bitch. Take your money and get out. Because I'm tired of listening to your mouth.
Why, Aunt Bailey.
We cross. Them guns don't scare me. Without them guns, you ain't nothing but a skinny lunger.
Dad, what an ugly thing to say. Our poor ugliness. Does this mean we're not friends anymore? You know, Ed, if I thought you weren't my friend, I just don't think I could bear it.
Who can take your money?
Who can take your money?
With a twinkle in their eye.
A twinkle in their eye.
Take it all away and give it to some other guy. The government. The government can.
The government can.
And who can tax the sunrise? Who can tax the trees?
Who can tax the trees?
Let you run a business and collect up all the fees. The government. The government can.
The government can.
And the government can, 'cause they mix it up with lies and make it all taste good.
Make it all taste good.
The government takes everything we make to pay for all of their solutions, like healthcare, climate change, pollution. Just throw away the Constitution. I wrote that, thank you. And who can give a bailout? Tell us to behave.
Tell us to behave.
And make the founding fathers roll over in their grave. I don't care if you hate me, I'm gonna sing it anyway. Oh, the government can.
The government can.
And the government can go and mix it up with lies and make it all yummy, 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 yummy. The government takes everything. They're all power hungry and malicious. Their economics are fictitious. Soon we'll have to eat our dishes. Yeah.
Delicious.
And who can be a failure?
Who can be a failure?
In so many ways.
In so many ways.
And instead of getting fired, hey, we'll give ourselves a raise. California, you know what I'm talking about. Government can. And the government can, 'cause they mix it up and like make it all taste good. And the other side can, mixes it to life. Get down, get down. And I feel so good. I could.
And a good Friday evening, everybody. We wrap up another week here on the Mike Falls News Network. We're totally grateful to have you. Good to see everybody. We're hoping that you all are having a good night tonight and so forth. And we hope that we are grateful to have you on this news wrap up. You know, I was thinking about something. I saw this on the internet today. It's an oldie. I know some of you folks remember the Gong show, and I cannot think of a more appropriate way to depict tonight how it feels to have President Donald John Trump in office instead of Kamala Harris. I think we can relate to this.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
This is how Republicans do it. This is how Republicans do it. This is how dumb... No, I'm not going to say it. This is how Democrats do it. Choose your fighter. I would say choose your loser. Choose your loser. And yes, I'm being nice tonight. It's a Friday night.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Elementary, my dear Watson. This is the news wrap-up show. That video I just played you folks is a real video. I thought Gene the Machine was a nice counteraction to the fight song of the Dem Party. This is what they've delved into. We Republicans, we do it when we're sold. Embarrass had the hat on. I've got a better looking cowboy hat than he had. But I remember that show. I loved that show when I was growing up as a kid. I always dreamed of going on the Gong show. I'd be afraid to go on there these days. Whenever I give my music to everybody or anybody, I always tell them two things: no vomiting and no gonging. So when I tell you no gonging and no vomiting, it means what it says. No vomiting and no gonging. That's what it means. You know, the Gong show, these acts would come out, and some of them were crazy. I mean, just nutty. And if you could survive, I think they gave you 2 minutes. And if you could survive 2 minutes without them taking that gong and gong, then you got to the final and they give you points, you know. So I love that part of that show, though. Gene the Machine, the dancing machine. That's how the country feels tonight, except the left.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
That's how the country feels tonight, except the left. Let me get right to the headlines tonight. Speaking of this video, this is no joke, folks. The Dems have absolutely shamed themselves this week. What an ugly, ugly display. Tuesday night. We talked about it Tuesday night. What an ugly display. Some of the comments by Nicole Wallace and Rachel Maddow on MSNBC. Even President Trump has chimed in and said they need to be fired. We're going to look at Gateway Pundit and Breitbart tonight. Very, very despicable to talk about this 13-year-old kid like they did. And the video, there's a video out there of him that we're going to try to find for next week. I tried to get it downloaded, but I wanted to deal with headlines, and we're going to get to your comments tonight and questions. But he was talking about his disability, and his dad sort of chimed in and told Rachel Maddow to keep her mouth shut. And I'm glad he did. I'm glad he did, because she needs to do that. She needs to be fired. And I thought Nicole Wallace's comments were more vile than hers. But Rachel was just trying to make a big deal of Trump bringing the kid to the State of the Union. I thought the Dems not even being able to stand up for him was despicable. But when Nicole Wallace basically was trying to equate him to January 6th and saying, I pray to God that you don't grow up to have to defend Trump's J6 riots or something like that, I'm sorry. That's just as low as it gets. And then this video I just showed you, and I'll bring it back up. For those of you, most of you who understand what it is, that's the Dems' response to Trump this week. They're going to fight. They are going to fight. I've got a t-shirt, let them fight, let us dance. How you like that one? Let them fight, let us dance. Because this is all they've got. Let me put this back and rewind this. I think this will do it. Well, or they're not going to let me do it. Anyway, here's the video. Humiliating Choose Your Fighter skit featuring 6 female members of Congress is released. And the social media replies are brutal. And Trump basically called them out. These reps were Alexandria Cortez, no surprise there. Lauren Underwood, no surprise there. Catherine Clark, Democrat from Massachusetts, no surprise there. Judy Chu, Democrat to California. Jasmine Crockett in Texas. And Susie Lee from Nevada. No surprise there. President Trump in the White House was basically trolling them today, and we'll get to that a little bit more. 22 Democrats posted a silly video where they copied each other's reply nearly word for word a few days before this, on the eve of Trump's address. Don't these people just look insane? I mean, goodness gracious. A cringe choose the fighter video. Let me say it again. They want to fight and resist. We just want to dance. We just want to be like Gene the Machine, the dancing machine. I feel it in my bones. Maybe I should go on the Gong show. Maybe we should resurrect the Gong show. Have a Friday night Mac Files Gong show. And see how many anyway, we're grateful. Jay said he saw it the day it actually aired. We are doing the happy dance. Yes, we are. We are doing the happy dance. It's so elementary, my dear Watson. It's so elementary, my dear Watson. Now, a couple of other news stories. I want to go, that's not the biggest news of the week, even though it is sort of stupid what they did. Even Jimmy Kimmel, I'll show you what, this is how bad it got last night. Jimmy Kimmel, no fan of Trump, no fan of Republicans, even he was mocking this. Roll the tape.
As the pile of crazy starts to build, a lot of people have been wondering how and when the Democrats are planning to fight back. Well, look out, because we got a plan, and we are launching it on TikTok. Choose your fury. Yeah, we're not going to stand back and take it anymore. We're going to fight. What is that supposed to do besides embarrass everyone involved with it? And then we had a scene outside NPR where angry protesters gathered to denounce a bill in the House that would eliminate funding for public broadcasting.
So I'm going to say whose streets, and you're going to say Sesame Street. Yeah? Yeah? Okay, here we go. Let's try. Whose streets?
Sesame Street.
Whose streets?
Sesame Street.
Whose streets?
Sesame Street.
You know, maybe I'll look into getting a medically induced coma for the next 4 years. As a way to sleep it out. We are, oh man, if that is the best we got, Ukraine is even in more trouble than we realize. You know, the United States is no longer providing Ukraine with military aid or intelligence, which means they're...
And I'm thankful they cut him off there, but that's all they got. And if Jimmy Kimmel is making fun of you, you're in trouble. Look, the only sane Democrat right now, I told my brothers this afternoon, I sent them a tweet by John Fetterman. Do you realize that John Fetterman has become the to me, they were talking about leadership, who is the leader of the Democrat Party? I don't agree with a thing John Fetterman says. Well, not most of the stuff I don't see. I see me and him are. He's one thing about John Fetterman. Like him, hate him. He stands for Israel. I'm very proud of that. He understands Hamas is evil. He understands Israel is, while not perfect, she's fighting a moral war. She's fighting a righteous war against terrorism. He understands it. He gets it. Some Republicans don't get it. Some YouTube prophets don't get it. Some teachers don't get it. There's a lot of folks that don't get it. John Fetterman gets it. But he's telling the Democrats, he said, I've never seen a bunch of petulant children in my life. I'm paraphrasing what he said. He said, we're embarrassing ourselves as a party. And he said, we're basically pushing ourselves into oblivion for the next 50 years if we don't turn around. But far be it from McDonald, far be it from Mac here to tell the Democrats not to commit political suicide. Because I've never seen a more despicable, wicked party that pushes more despicable, wicked things than that party does. So let them keep embarrassing themselves. I'm not going to stop them. And John, come on over to the Republicans. We could use your vote in the House, by the way. Or
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Elementary, my dear Watson. I like John Fetterman. I never thought I would. I told my brothers I'm finding myself agreeing with Lurch. With Lurch, because that's what he looks like. No offense, John. No offense. No offense. All righty. Let's see here. We'll get some cartoons. I do want to go back to the newswire here. Folks, bear with me. We're going to take your questions in a minute. No paragraphs. No paragraphs. None. It's distracting when you put paragraphs in there. Just listen to me for a few minutes and I'll get to your questions. Here's the headlines on Gateway Pundit tonight. And a couple of these I want to read. By the way, the big news this evening is really down here. They're fighting Trump in the courts. A radical Biden judge suggests he does not have the authority to fire a member of the labor board, says firing encroaches on the powers of Congress. Let me say something about that. Let me just tell this judge something. The Supreme Court went against Trump on the freezing of USAID, claiming that, anything that was prior committed from Biden has the legal right, constitutional right to go forth. That's totally untrue. An executive order, a lot of those things were basically done by executive order, just like Trump signing executive orders. And when one president leaves, that executive order goes away. And it doesn't matter what one president does. Once he leaves office, those things are no longer, you can change that. A president can do it. Now, the Supreme Court gave us probably a gift, and Lindsey Graham tonight, to his credit, and I will get to that story on Breitbart, he's calling for an immediate bill. And I'm proud of Lindsey. Don't like a lot of things he does, and he changes his colors like I change shirts every day. But he's saying that Congress needs to put in a law right now, basically incorporating these DOGE cuts and these DOGE recommendations, making them legislative law. And if they do that and cuts the funding out from these organizations, let the people sue all they want to, you ain't gonna get nowhere, and the money's still not going to get to the place they need to. So let these judges keep doing what they're doing. They're actually doing us a favor if Congress will do their job. These things need to be done legislatively anyway. But this is absolutely false. No, the president has a right to fire people in the executive branch of government. I hate to tell these judges, and again, these judges don't follow the Constitution anyway, many of them, but I pray that somebody on appeal will see the light. But you're going to see more and more of that in the weeks to come. We've also a few other stories. This is an interesting story here. There's a report out tonight that nearly all of Biden's official signatures were autopens. Questions being asked tonight, who was really running the country? How about Mickey Mouse? Joe Biden's cognitive decline was obvious to anyone paying attention. Biden would tell nonsense stories in the 2020 campaign, and they go through a list of those. But the mainstream media gaslit America that everything was fine and all these were a vast right-wing conspiracy. Now the intrepid investigators of the Heritage Foundation's Oversight Project, led by longtime investigator Mike Howell, has compared the Biden signatures on nearly every document from his administration. They're finding that Biden never actually signed anything himself. That's interesting. And this is the tweet right there. It says, whoever controlled the autopen controlled the presidency. We gathered every document we could find with Joe Biden's signature over the course of his presidency. All used the same autopen signature except for the announcement that the president was dropping out of the race. And there it is right there. And Libs of TikTok actually posted this. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey has asked the DOJ to investigate another, or whether Biden's cognitive mental decline allowed unelected officials to make decisions without his knowledge or approval. In that case, Biden's executive orders, pardons, and other actions may be brought into question. And I get asked that question a lot. And folks, look, in a normal world where the courts are right, and we have people in the DOJ now that are pretty sound people, and we'll see. I mean, I hear people ask the question, will that mean that anything that he's done by his presidency be voided? That remains to be seen. If that does happen, you truly have a true constitutional crisis. I mean, we talk about it all the time. The left talks about it. I do find it funny that their biggest argument against Elon Musk is he's not elected, that he's an unelected official. And President Trump made it clear yesterday that Elon is not doing the firing. All Elon is doing is the suggestion. It's up to Trump, and he's basically told his cabinet, and I think it's wisdom, to use a scalpel, not a hatchet. If there are good people that are in government, leave them be. If there are people that are doing their jobs, leave them be. And I think that, that's wise and it's wisdom. But we need to clean this bureaucracy out, and we need to clean the fat out. All Elon can do is suggest. Elon does not have any authority given to him by the president to do anything but suggest. But the left's losing their minds, claiming that he's not elected. Well, there's a lot of people during the Biden years that wasn't elected. Jill Biden wasn't elected, but she was conducting White House press briefings and White House cabinet meetings and a lot of other things. And we didn't elect Jill Biden. She was First Lady. So the left always does this. They always project on the right. But what you just saw there is an actual case of somebody was signing these things and documents for Joe Biden, and evidently it was an automatic autopen. And I'm with the Libs of TikTok, and I'm with this Mike Howell. I think whoever's controlling that pen was the one controlling the presidency. This is a sad story tonight. We've got a cause of the Hackman death, and the world knows exactly now what happened to legendary actor Gene Hackman and his wife. The Gateway Pundit reported Hackman, an actor renowned for his roles in The French Connection and Unforgiven. I saw Unforgiven. I was 6 years old when French Connection came out. I've really never watched that full movie. Unforgiven was a great Western. Was found dead along his wife, classical pianist Betsy Arakawa, in their Santa Fe residence last month. The bodies were found mummified in their compound with pills scattered throughout the bathroom. The couple's dog was also found dead at the scene. Santa Fe County Sheriff Aidan Mendoza confirmed the discovery, stating there were no immediate signs of foul play. The star actor's daughter, Elizabeth Hackman, speculated to TMZ that carbon monoxide poisoning may have been to blame for their deaths, but the true cause, howbeit, are somewhat surprising, especially in Arakawa's case. KTLA revealed at a media conference on Friday, a representative from the Santa Fe Medical Examiner's Office revealed Hackman's cause of death was hypertension and atherosclerotic cardiac disease. Alzheimer's disease was also a significant contributing factor. His wife's cause of death was hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, HPS, a deadly disease spread by rodent droppings. It generally occurs in spring and summer in areas where people are near mouse droppings in homes, sheds, and poorly ventilated areas. It was discovered in 1993 in the Four Corners region of New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and Colorado. They were living in Santa Fe. It's affected 52 patients, 32 ended up dying. During the press conference, it was revealed that her body was in the house for a week while Hackman was still alive. She died on February the 11th. He passed away February the 17th. Some believe that Hackman did not even know his wife was dead due to having Alzheimer's. The dog's cause of death has not been released. Here's the sheriff.
This investigation started on February 26th with the discovery of Mr. Hackman and Miss Arakawa and their dog at the residence. I just want to do a short recap and then touch on some new information. As we know, both individuals tested negative for carbon monoxide. City Fire conducted tests and deemed scene safe for deputies to conduct their investigation. The preliminary pacemaker interrogation results were released last week, and I'll let Dr. Giral touch more specifically on those results. The gas company New Mexico, they also did an analysis of the residence, and they found one minor leak in a single burner on the kitchen stove, which was 0.33% of room air, which was pretty minute and insignificant. Since that time, Xena, the deceased dog, has been taken for necropsy at the Veterinary Diagnostic Services, and we'll be awaiting those results. Let's speak a little bit in reference to the timeline for Betsy Arakawa. We know from our investigation that on February 9th, 2025, she picked up Xena from Gruta Veterinary Hospital. There was a procedure that was done with the dog, which may explain why the dog was in a crate at the residence. Let's move on to February 11th, 2025. Mrs. Arakawa had an email conversation with her massage therapist at about 11:21 a.m. Moving on into the afternoon, Ms. Arakawa was at the Sprouts Farmers Market between 3:30 and 4:15 p.m. Ms. Arakawa was seen on surveillance video at the CVS pharmacy in Santa Fe from 4:12 to 4:20 p.m. She then stopped at a local pet food store at about 4:54 p.m. Her car was seen on surveillance, and the remote control clicker that is assigned to her and her vehicle was used to enter the subdivision to gain access to the gated community at 5:15 p.m. Numerous emails were unopened on her computer on February 11th. There was no additional outgoing communication from her or known activity after February 11th, 2025. The cell phone information and the cell phone data is pending. We're working with state police to get the information from those phones, but our investigation shows that all the last known communication and activity from Ms. Arakawa was on.
And that's the sad end to a great actor, Gene Hackman, and his wife. It's very sad to see what happened there. That's got to be terrible for the family. Our prayers for the family, but that's what happened, and we'll take the word for it. Couple of other stories. Trump fires a DOJ pardon attorney. DOJ fires pardon attorney who was responsible for advising Biden on granting mass clemency to convicts, including violent murders. That happened tonight around 7:20. We'll follow that story next week. And by the way, this is intriguing. FEMA has fired 3 supervisors. You North Carolina folks say amen to this, following investigations into officials' orders to skip homes with Trump signs that needed hurricane relief. The Federal Emergency Management has fired 3 more supervisors following an internal probe that claims a crew of disaster relief workers were told to avoid Trump-supporting homes hit by Hurricane Milton in Florida. And I understand they were doing the same thing in North Carolina. Cameron Hamilton, the current acting administrator of the agency, announced in a Tuesday letter to Senator Marsha Blackburn, my senator here in Tennessee, that an exhaustive investigation had concluded the supervisors failed to meet our standards of conduct and rein in their partisan behavior. You think? In November, the FEMA administrator, Deanne Criswell, appeared before congressional hearings as allegations surfaced that Trump supporters' homes were intentionally skipped during agencies. There she is right there. She denied that. And she absolutely said, absolutely not. And then she attributed the incident to a rogue employee and confirmed the employee in question, Marnie Washington, had been terminated. And there's Miss Washington right there. As previously reported, Marnie Washington ordered her staff to avoid assisting homes with Trump flags in their yards following the aftermath of Hurricane Milton. Two lovely ladies right there. I'll just leave it at that. And leave it at that. A whistleblower came forward with text messages revealing FEMA officials, Miss Washington, ordered relief workers to purposely skip over homes in Florida. According to internal messages obtained by the Daily Wire, FEMA discriminated against Trump supporters in need of the help in aftermath of the most recent hurricanes. And there's the, this was back in November, and it's clearly highlighted there. It says, no one goes anywhere alone. Avoid homes advertising Trump. That was right. That was even after the election. That was what the tweets were before, but they discovered them November the 8th. Whistleblowers basically came forth and nothing was done, and they were all denying it, especially these two. Oh, we didn't do this. We didn't do this. She claimed, Miss Criswell claimed it was Washington here that was behind it, but it was evidently more than just her. So that's good news tonight. That's good news. They should have been fired a long time ago. They wouldn't have been. Under Joe Biden's rule. A couple of other stories tonight. This is an interesting one. Kristi Noem, Holman has been basically screaming about these leakers that have been telling these ICE, telling the illegals where the ICE people will be at and for them to hide. And she says that they have been identified. This was this afternoon, and they each face up to 10 years in prison each. Noem said her investigators have identified 2 leakers within the Department of Homeland Security, are preparing to refer them to the Justice Department. These individuals face up to 10 years. She said, we will find out and root all the leakers. They will face prison time, and we will get justice for the American people. Here's Ms. Noem.
Everyone, I wanted to give you a quick update. We have identified 2 leakers of information here at the Department of Homeland Security who have been telling individuals about our operations and putting law enforcement lives in jeopardy. We plan to prosecute these 2 individuals and hold them accountable for what they've done. And we're going to continue to do all that we can to keep America safe.
And that is a new sheriff in town as well. The Department of Homeland Security head Secretary Kristi Noem. Very well done. She's doing a good job there. Here's Libs of TikTok. Roll the tape.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says that they have identified the leakers who exposed the locations of upcoming immigrations and custom enforcement raids. This is a big deal. And our Bill Malugin has got the details. Bill.
Yeah, John, good afternoon to you. Just a short time ago, DHS officials confirmed to Fox News they say they have identified 2 people within DHS who they say they have caught leaking information about ICE operations to different targets and then put those operations in jeopardy. We got a video from DHS Secretary Kristi Noem herself making this announcement, was just sent over to us. Take a look.
Everyone, I wanted to give you a quick update. We have identified 2 leakers of information here at the Department of Homeland Security who have been telling individuals about our operations and putting law enforcement lives in jeopardy. We plan to prosecute these 2 individuals and hold them accountable for what they've done. And we're going to continue to do all that we can to keep America safe.
And a DHS spokesperson also sent us the following statement on record, which says, quote, we are preparing to refer these perpetrators to the DOJ for felony prosecutions. These individuals face up to 10 years in federal prison. We will find and root out all leakers. They will face prison time, and we will get justice for the American people. Now, to that point, we do want to point out that this is just a referral. It is ultimately going to be up to the Department of Justice on whether or not they want to move forward with prosecutions of these alleged leakers. You have to keep in mind these individuals, whoever they are, will also have due process, and they would have to be either found guilty or put in a guilty plea if we want to talk about any sort of prison time. But guys, this is obviously very significant. You're looking at video from an ICE raid in Aurora, Colorado last month. I was on that operation. It failed. It leaked. There were media reports that the raid was coming days in advance. The same thing happened for an operation here in Los Angeles. Another operation in Virginia just leaked a few days ago. There was also another leak in Chicago. These leaks have been widespread. It has happened multiple times. They have seemed to be getting worse and worse. And we've seen people from the Trump administration going on television saying that these leaks are putting ICE officers in jeopardy. It's putting the operations in jeopardy, and that they're going to track down, find these leakers, and prosecute them. And according to DHS and Secretary Nome, it appears they've taken the first step towards that process. Again, they say they've identified 2 people within DHS. That's important. They're within the Department of Homeland Security, so they're privy to this information, and they're going to seek to prosecute them. They'll send those referrals over to DOJ. DOJ will take a look at it. It will be up to DOJ to decide whether or not to move forward with any type of potential prosecution. But some breaking news here on this Friday for you guys. John.
All right, Bill Malucci for us with the breaking
Thank
news.
you, John. Thank you, Bill. We'll move on from here. We've got it from there. But listen, that's an interesting thing. And their Secretary Nome, this is back in March, on the March the 4th. She says, we will not be deterred by leaks. If you come to this country and break our laws, we will hunt you down. And we could stay on this more tonight, but I'm got better fish to fry. We talked to Victor Alba about a lot of things last night. It was a great interview with Victor. I hope you heard it. We were dealing with the cartels. I'm going to deal with this with him next time. Folks, these people are within these departments. This is why having Trump have the ability, giving him the ability to fire and hire who he wants to, is so important. And he's got that right under the Constitution. All of these agencies fall under the executive branch, folks. There's not one of these branches that is not even a judicial branch matter. But these judges are sticking their nose, and they're doing everything they can to stop this momentum. And they're trying to do it with these rogue decisions. And to be frank with you, you say, well, Trump should ignore it. He don't need to ignore it. He needs to do exactly what he's doing, appeal it. And unfortunately, there's not going to be a surety that you're going to get to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court's going to see through it. They didn't see through it with the USAID payments. And Trump is having to pay $1.9 billion to these things that Joe Biden evidently had promised. And unless Congress steps in and does this, then that's what he's facing. And I think they're doing us a favor, but Congress has got to do their job and put a lot of this in law. Trump has the right to fire who he wants to. And Kristi Noem, all these department heads have the right to fire these individuals and put these people in jail. I got several memes to show you tonight, but I will tell you this is one that is very important. And unless this happens, and until this happens right here, nothing's going to change in D.C. Nothing's going to change. I guarantee you, that's not a poll question tonight, but every one of you out there, most of you, that's what we're crying for. I'm tired of the tearfully worded letters. I'm tired of the Fox News interviews. I'm tired of everybody talking tough. I'm tired of we're going to get them. I heard Noam, and I'm nothing against Kristi. She's doing her job. She's doing the right thing. She's referred them to the DOJ. But it's time for some people in handcuffs, folks. Because until somebody goes to jail for doing this stuff, they're going to keep doing it. Until they get arrested, they're going to keep doing it. And
elementary, my dear Watson.
Elementary, my dear Watson. It's elementary, my dear Watson. Let's go back to the news wire. We're in good shape. We're not going to keep you past midnight tonight. No, we're not going to keep you till midnight. Just 11:59. But that's an important story tonight, and we're following that. We'll see how that plays out next week. That'll be something to follow next week, and she needed to do that. A couple of other stories I want to share with you. Let me come on down here, and we'll talk about some other things. A federal judge has declined to block the DOGE access to the Treasury system. That's good news. And let's see here. A couple of other things. We're going to talk about Ukraine. Talk about Ukraine and Russia here in a minute. I'm trying to find this right here. This is the wonderful host of the MSNBC, Nicole Wallace. Her ratings have cratered. She now trails the Food Network show. She now trails the Food Network. That's not good, Nicole. She made a disgusting comment about a 13-year-old child battling cancer, DJ Daniel, who was made an honorary member of the Secret Service Tuesday night. There he is right there. And hugging the head of the Secret Service. Wallace made a smart aleck remark. Here's a remark. Roll the tape.
But I think this was a lesson in finding one thing that you let yourself feel. And I let myself feel joy about DJ. And I hope he's alive for another, 95 years, right? And I hope he lives and the life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide. And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious conspiracy and then live to see Donald Trump pardon those people.
Wow. That's just... Speaking of a 13-year-old kid, special needs kid, that's MSNBC. President Trump said she needs to be fired. I should have probably made that the poll question tonight. Here is the headlines over here. You can see the highlighting there. These are the top stories on TGP, the Gateway Pundit tonight. Trump has had 0 bankruptcies. They're claiming, the media's claiming that. James O'Keefe has called Financial Times editor Carl Winfield after receiving BS email attacking report on State Farm Vice President trashing the LA fire victims. Did y'all see this? This was unreal. This was an undercover. James O'Keefe has a way of getting to these things. And here it is right here. I think this is a phone call. Roll the tape.
This is Carl, you're Winfield, right? Pronouns he, his? Okay, just want to make sure I'm talking to the right Carl at the Financial Times. Are you confused about your gender? Anyway, let's talk about insurance. The video just quotes him. It shows him saying...
What the hell the video does. I mean, look, that's just somebody looking at the video. So.
What? You can see the subjects. You can see the subject's lips moving. The Financial Times doesn't show subjects' lips moving. You quote people, often anonymously, often on background, often through hearsay.
With being ignorant about what has been going on in California.
Ignorant?
I don't mean ignorant in a negative sense. I just mean that you don't cover property and casualty insurance.
I would love to cover everything under the sun. I investigate everything and anyone.
James, listen to me. Come now.
I'm listening.
Come now.
Come now? What?
You have a 14-minute video, and then you did 2 spots. One for Fisher Investments. I thought it was odd to see that in a video.
Does Financial Times run advertising in their newspaper? I see you have gold bracelets and shit.
For the wellness company.
And by the way, Alec...
And I'm not going to play the whole 9-minute conversation, but I'll put this in perspective, then we're going to go to Breitbart, and then we're going to take your comments tonight. Basically, folks, what happened was the State Farm Vice President was basically blaming the California fires on the people for building expensive homes in Southern California. And he got fired for it, and then there's this brouhaha. He got caught on tape. These people better be careful what they're saying on camera, and sometimes you can't get people to tell the truth about stuff unless you do what James O'Keefe does. I know there's a lot of debate whether what he's doing is legit or whatever, and I've got no problem with what he does. He's the one that basically got Planned Parenthood on camera admitting they were selling baby parts. This has been about 10 years ago now, 9 years ago, And you would have never found that out had it not been for James O'Keefe. And he has went through so many legal battles, and they have fought. People have sued him left and right, and it's been a brutal little journey, but very interesting. Very, very interesting stuff. Okay, I want to talk a little bit tonight about Ukraine and Russia. There was a story that is in Breitbart tonight. I'm going to take down the Gateway Pundit site, and we're going to go right to the Breitbart site tonight. If I can find it here. Well, I thought we had it up. This was, of course, what happened Friday with Trump and Zelensky. And I want to put this up, and then we're going to talk about Senator Lindsey Graham tonight in actually a positive manner. We're going to talk about him. I want to talk about Russia tonight. Russia has rejected the Ukraine ceasefire and has launched a massive bombing campaign. This was this was reported this afternoon, and you can see the damage there. Russia said on Thursday that a partial or temporary ceasefire in its war in Ukraine would be unacceptable, and only a comprehensive final settlement would do. They punctuated this argument by launching a massive attack on Ukraine's energy infrastructure with missiles and drones. They appear to be on the verge of ejecting Ukrainian forces from Kursk, the territory counter-invaded by the Ukrainians in August of last year. The Russians currently rejected a British-French proposal for a one-month ceasefire in the air, at sea, and on energy. And you can see the story here. We've got this on our news headlines tonight. But I will say this. Trump tonight, Trump has basically said, and I'll just come back over here and talk about it, they've not got the story up yet. Trump has said late tonight that he believes Russia is ready for peace. Now, I know it may not seem like it, but I want to put the question to you tonight. Who do you blame? Who do you blame for this Russia-Ukraine war? The media has put it all solely on Russia. Most people that I see on Facebook put it solely on Russia. There are some people that see the corruption of Ukraine, but they blame Russia for the war. There are some people that I think understand the leadership we had here in America led to this. There are some that I think the media did not help matters by stoking this war. You know, I said this about a year ago, and I don't know if James Rohr was with me one night, and maybe we talked about this. But, you know, it's funny. Every war that I've ever seen covered by the media in the past, you got scenes from that war. The Iraqi war, the Vietnam war, even when Israel has had these skirmishes. I mean, man, the media blasts those images out daily. I mean, daily. When Israel was going into Gaza and they were doing it to blame Israel for the Hamas Gaza thing. I mean, there was no shortage of war clips. And I want you to think about this. How many on-the-ground clips did we get from this war that supposedly was the all-important war of history, according to the Biden crime family and the Biden administration? You didn't see hardly any reports coming out of Russia or Ukraine, except anything that was pro-Ukraine. And it was always one-sided. It was never handled right. I'm just curious what you think. We're going to talk about it tonight with you here in a minute. But who do you blame for this? I'm not trusting either side. I don't trust Putin past his camera. But I can tell you I trust Zelensky even less. And it's a given that without leadership that we didn't have in 4 years, this was an inevitable what it was going to happen. It was just inevitable what it was going to do, and it was going to happen the way it happened. I want to go back, and here's some other. We've got this. I want you to read. This is an interesting article tonight I want to talk about too before we get to your questions. President Trump has started the process of looking at how tax dollars are being spent in Washington This has been talked about by conservatives, but President Trump and his team are actually doing it. This is from Breitbart. He rightly said on Thursday that we need a scalpel rather than the hatchet, and that is true. And this is the Department of Government Efficiency. This was done as it relates to Social Security, and you can see some of the ages. We had showed this to you the other night. Some of the ages that were collecting it, and they're going through this. But basically, that right there, 1.3 million. President Trump mentioned this for transforming health for gender diverse young adults. 120,000 for personalized 3D avatar tool development focused on gender identity. 400,000 for research in sources of minority stress and alcohol consumption among adults who report uncertainty about their orientation. 160,000 for research in racialized sexual discrimination among young sexual minority men of color. 241,000 an intervention to promote healthy relationship among transgender and gender expansive youths. The money taxpayers send to Washington come from hard work should be honored, and the answer is through a process called rescission. It all allows the White House to put together a package of spending cuts and send it to Congress for approval. And I want to highlight this right here. A rescission package has to originate from the White House, and there are some budgetary limits of how and what can be cut. And this is Lindsey Graham's comments tonight, some of them. And he's basically believing that this can be done in Congress, and I encourage you to read this article. Lindsey Graham wrote this article himself, actually, and he believes that the Congress can step in and could pass a rescission package to enact those cuts. Now, let me tell you why that's important, because once they do that, then the courts, these federal rogue judges, their power ceases. In other words, I'm not going to say they're not going to try to do it, but it's taken out of Trump's hands and it's put in Congress's hands. And these laws, folks, it's going to be hard pressed. It's going to be hard pressed. You can't force Congress to spend money. If they tell you that they ain't got money, tough do. And they can cut these funds off legally and constitutionally through the pen, and the House of Representatives handles financial spending. And then it goes to the Senate. And what I understood today, Kennedy out in Louisiana agreed with Graham, and he basically said we just need a simple majority. We don't need 60 votes for this. We just need a simple majority. We got a simple majority by a razor-thin margin, unless you get a rhino going crazy or two. Then that's how we handle it, and so forth. I want to say this. There was a couple of other stories tonight that I really wanted to mention. But Trump has appointed, I didn't know if you heard about this, Laura Ingraham tonight and Maria Bartolomeo. She's going to be having him on her program, I think, Sunday, President Trump. And they're going to be part of the Kennedy Center Board. That is an absolutely good choice. Both those ladies are very patriotic, and I appreciate him doing it. NOLA Mayor Landreau, Donald Trump is a traitor to the country. We're going to talk about the tariffs next week more. I'm just looking at some of these stories that we're going to be basically doing next week and so forth. President Trump is going to go after Maine with this Title IX situation, and you can see the headlines here. We encourage you to visit our Telegram room. And this is why, folks, this is why this border is so important. You've got an illegal alien charged with human trafficking, a 16-year-old girl in Florida, in Flagler County. This guy's 70 years old, illegal alien from Cuba. He's been arrested and charged with human trafficking and sexual activity with a minor. He's facing deportation. And again, all these stories are on Breitbart tonight. And you can see it right there. Right there. And so forth. Did you hear about this today? I'm going to wrap it up on this. Did you hear about Mr. Newsom? Gavin's got some problems with the LGBTQ caucus in California. Not that I care about that. But they are sickened and disgusted after they claimed he turned on trans athletes. He basically had Charlie Kirk on his podcast. I guess he don't have time. He don't have enough things to do in California to take care of the fires, so Gavin is doing a podcast. But the LGBTQ community is not too happy. Roll the tape.
So you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports, that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out and say no.
No, and I appreciate.
But like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that. There's also a humility and a grace, that these poor people are more likely to commit suicide, have anxiety and depression. And the way that people talk down to vulnerable communities is an issue that I have a hard time with as well. So both things I can hold in my hand. How can we address this issue with the kind of decency that I think, is inherent in you, but not always expressed?
Not always expressed. Roll that tape again.
Like, you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports, that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out and say no.
No, and I appreciate.
But like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that. There's also a humility and a grace.
And let me just say this. He should have stopped his statement right there. It's not just unfair, folks. It's perverse. Let me help Gavin Newsom. Let me get my color crown out. Here's my color crown. Let me write this down, Gavin. It is perverse. It is perverse. It is perversion. It's not just unfair, it's dangerous. There have been injuries to some of these young girls. There have been the young lady that was in the audience Tuesday night with President Trump. She had her whole nose, from her cranial, her nose got busted in a volleyball game because she was hit so hard with the force of a volleyball that was basically spiked by a male wanting to be female or claiming he was female. It's dangerous. Somebody's going to get killed. And some ladies have been injured. Girls have been injured. Liberalism is a mental disorder, but this is what makes all this with Gavin Newsom so sick and so weaselly. The only reason he's doing this, and the very fact that Charlie Kirk got him to admit it was unfair, is all politics. Let's just say, is there anybody out there that believes if Gavin Newsom was doing a podcast right now with Kamala Harris in power, that he would have said that tonight? He knows where he's got to go for federal funds. And he knows how this White House feels about men and women's sports. He knows this White House believes in two genders. So he's never going to come out and tell you verbatim that men don't need to be in there. So he's going to weasel his way around. You Californians, take this to heart. I heard Kevin McCartney this morning. And California, I implore you, I implore California folks, get out, find a good Republican. Find a good Republican for 2026. If you don't, you're going to have Kamala Harris as your governor next. The nation's problem is going to become your problem, California, because she's running. I feel it in my bones that she's going to run. So I don't think this is Gavin Newsom's true feelings, but what he's done, he's ticked off the LGBTQ community at him now. You can't play both ends against the middle. You got to take a stand, Gavin. He'll never do that. Now, one story I didn't get to tonight, I'm dying to get to. I'll deal with it Monday. Mayorkas, the former Homeland Security guy, was out there this week claiming that he was against sanctuary cities. And I'm trying to get the video from Tom Homan tonight, where Tom Homan had a few choice words for that. I just love Tom Homan, the border czar, and so forth. All right. We'll talk about that Monday. That's our news wires tonight. You can find all these stories on our Telegram. You can find all these stories on our Telegram page. Newsom is doing this podcast to get the young vote because he wants to be president. Zoanne, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that a bit. I'm just curious, would any of my audience out there vote for, do you think a young kid, I don't see how the young people would vote for this man. I just don't. I may be wrong. if 2028, if I'll put it like this, if this country loses its spiritual mind and wants to go back to what we just came out of in 4 years, there will be no hope for this nation. And I don't normally say there's no hope. I'll always hold out there's hope for everything. If we want to go back to 4 years of what we just came out of, there is going to be no hope for this country. There just ain't going to be no hope. Zoe, and I don't disagree with you, but I'm with you. I understand what you're saying. All right, if you got something to say, have at it. Rick Grinnell would be a good governor. If you're out in California tonight, that might be a good question to put in there. Who would you like to see on the Republican side? But the push for Kamala Harris on the Democrat side is growing louder by the minute. And I don't doubt that she will be the one throwing her hat in the ring. We know this: President Trump will not be running for president. Here, it'll probably be either J.D. Vance or somebody. DeSantis' name is coming up. I think a DeSantis-Vance ticket would be awesome. A DeSantis-Huckabee Sanders ticket would be awesome. A Vance-Huckabee Sanders ticket would be awesome. I like J.D. Vance. I love that young man. I think he has stood up for President Trump, and I don't think we've ever had a better vice president, honestly, than J.D. Vance. And I'm all in on J.D. I think he's a good kid. Zoanne says, I'm in California. Rick Grinnell would speak to Republicans as well as independents and maybe even some Democrats. Yeah, I do too. And again, Zoanne, I'm fully aware of his persuasion. I don't want to get into that. I would hope that, because he's got to deal with the Christian right. He's got to deal with the conservative right. Your point's taken, but that's going to be a challenge. And I understand what you're saying politically. But I'll just leave that alone for now, because that's weeds that I really don't want to get into tonight. But that would be the only challenge I see to Grinnell. That's the only thing I would see as a challenge to him. I do like him. He's a good man, and he's done a good job for President Trump. He's stuck with President Trump through thick and thin. Amy Barrett has been a huge disappointment. Betty, she has. Betty, we were talking about her last night. Folks, you got 15 minutes. Put your comments in. We're all Friday night wrap-up time. We got a few memes, and we're going to get out of here tonight. Listen, yeah, Betty, I'm with you. I was very disappointed. People have made a lot of big deal. We said this. We said it even after the speech Tuesday night. I actually, I don't know who I was talking to. Maybe my brothers or somebody. I said, I watched her expression at Trump as he was walking by and shaking the hands of the justices, and she looked like she was angry as you know what. I mean, she really looked bitter. I don't know about what. I mean, I don't know what actually has to grind with Trump. Trump's done nothing but help her and put her on the bench. What I've understood is that she's very strong on abortion, and that was really Trump's reasoning for nominating her, because he really, really, really wanted to see Roe v. Wade taken down, and he knew no matter what she did otherwise, she was going to stand firm on the Roe v. Wade issue. And even if Roberts went crazy, which he did, we'd still have that 5-4 majority. We can't be so sure about that anymore. I don't understand her reasoning for what she did Wednesday about the DOGE thing, or the aid money. The only thing they said was that these were agreements that, again, were made earlier by Biden, and they feel like that the government needs to adhere to those agreements, even though it was a previous administration. I disagree vehemently, and because it's not the Supreme Court's job to tell the government how to spend taxpayers' money. That's not the judicial branch's job. And the Supreme Court has opened a Pandora's box for all these little rogue rat judges, these liberal judges, to put roadblocks up for the Trump administration to do what they're doing in their job. And it's under the executive branch to do exactly what President Trump is doing. It's his right. It's his constitutional right. Anyway, it's an interesting poll we got going on. I'm going to read some of the comments on Facebook. I find it interesting. Dennis Floyd says, what about Larry Elder for California governor? He lost before, but I like him. Dennis, I do too. I tell you, again, the only thing with Larry, I look at Larry like I do Ben Carson. I love Ben Carson. I think Ben Carson's an excellent man. He's a wonderful conservative voice. He's got a lot of values, makes a lot of sense, but he does not have the gravitas to be a politician. He's almost too calm, and I look at Larry Elder as almost being too, I don't know what the word is. I'll give you an example, and this has been almost 30 years ago now. I was working with the paper in Georgia, and we had a governor's race. We had during this time, it was been 92, I guess, and Georgia was, their governorship was actually going Democrat. The Dems were a little bit different bunch then, 30, 40 years ago than they are today. They wasn't this radical leftist bunch that they are now. But we had a race in Georgia, and on the Democrat side, we had Joe Frank Harris, Bo Ginn, and there was another candidate. And then we had, I can't remember who the Republican was running. But Joe Frank Harris and Bo Ginn was the odds-on favorite to win that race. And he came out, and he was so mechanical and so robotic, and he smiled. He said all the right things. He promised all the right things. His campaign was this, all the rhetoric was right, but there was something about his connection to the people that was missing. And Joe Frank Harris was just one of those that just went out and smiled and talked to you, just straight up, no political speak, just talked to you like you was having a cup of coffee with him, glass of tea. Joe Frank Harris smoked Bo Ginn. Bo Ginn didn't even get 10% of the vote. I look at Larry Elder in many ways as the same type of candidate, and I watched him during the last run. Larry Elder needs to relax and be himself. And I don't think he connected with the people of California because of it. And that's just my opinion. I don't live out there. I know other people may see that differently. Ben Carson, in many ways, was the same way. They say the right thing, but you got to have that connection. Trump connected. He connects with people's soul. He connects with people's spirit. He connects with America. And he did it from day one in 2015. This country, look, even the people that hate him, that's a connection. You know, it's like Mark White, my dear buddy, told me one day. He said, if people are trashing your network and trashing your show, look at it as a gift, because at least they're connecting. You're doing something to cause people to be angry and to cause people to hate you. Good. But when they don't feel nothing, then you got a problem. And that's just my take, Dennis. It doesn't mean he ain't a good guy. It just ain't, that doesn't mean he ain't a good guy. And in Roger, I think that's what you're trying to say, and I'm trying to say it. You're saying it better than I'm saying it. He lacks the art of persuasion. That's the thing. He lacks the art of persuasion. And that's my only thing. I'm not so sure he would get past even the primary. Zoanne said Elder conceded the recall without a fight within 48 hours, not even a request for a recount or even wait for the rest of the votes. It was bad. I would never vote for him again. And Zoanne, that's a fair statement. That's a fair statement. Swami Zell Miller was a Democrat. This was before Zell Miller's time in Georgia. But I will say something about Zell Miller, Swami. I would never, ever, 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 this crop of Democrats, I would never vote for a Democrat. Zell Miller was the only one in the history of Democrats, and I'm from Georgia. Zell Miller was a good man. Zell Miller was one of the best Georgia governors we had other than George Busby on the Democrat side, honestly. I'm not a big fan of Brian Kemp right now. I got a cousin that we don't talk too much because he works in Brian Kemp's office, and I think he's fully aware of his first cousin's view on Brian Kemp. And my aunt and uncle share my view. Their son don't. But that's okay. He's family. We family members. We can disagree. Family can disagree and hug each other at Christmas. You know, drink some eggnog, have some fruitcake, and then tell my cousin your governor sucks. So, you know, that's just McDonald's. That's how we are in Turnages. I mean, that's just how we are around here. I do it with my brothers. I mean, my brothers and I are the same way. But Zell Miller, Swami, was a good governor. I'd have voted for Zell Miller. I wouldn't vote for this bunch today. I wouldn't vote for a Democrat within 20 million things. And this is what scares me about John Fetterman. John Fetterman is sounding normal. And he's a loon. John Fetterman, I mean, he would bring this country into Democrat policies in a second. But the man sounded normal. That's how radical the party has gone, that when you've got a guy like Fetterman sounding normal, I told my brothers today, we're screwed. When Fetterman is when I'm saying I agree with John Fetterman, Chris is going for help. But anyway, that's my take on Zell Miller, Swami. He was a good man. I would have voted for him, Happy Girl. I should have. And I tell you, if he'd have run for president, I would have had to consider. I would have had to consider voting for him for president. And there were rumblings that he was going to try to switch parties. They asked him about it before I think he passed away here a few years ago. And they asked him, he said, why did you stay Democrat all these years? And he said, I just, once a Democrat, always a Democrat. He did not like the direction that the party went. But I think that's where we all need to understand, we got about 5 minutes, that the Democrat Party we see today is not the Democrat Party our mom and dads grew up with and our grandmamas and granddaddies grew up with. Look, John F. Kennedy was actually, would fall under a Republican definition today. And there's been several of them like that. Zell Miller would have been one. And Appy, I'm with you. I would have voted for him. I mean, it would have probably not been... It wouldn't have went over well with my dad. But I'd have voted for him and not told Dad I voted for him. How about that? Because Daddy was pretty hardcore Republican. But I like Zell Miller. And you know something? Guys, I'll say this. If the Democrats were smart, which they're not, they'd listen to John Fetterman. They would come back to the center. It's what saved Bill Clinton, folks. When Bill Clinton lost that House in 1994, people were already betting. The odds in Las Vegas were almost getting as high as 100-1 that he would get reelected at that point. Because it was a rout in 1994, 2 years after him and Hillary took over the White House in 92. But Bill Clinton saw the light. He had ruled radically left for 2 years. And whether he was doing it politically or being sincere about it is irrelevant now, but he was smart enough to come back to the center. And while he was still a liberal and he still did a lot of crazy, evil things, he convinced America that he wasn't this left-wing loon bomb radical leftist, even though Hillary was right there with him. But he convinced the country, and that's why he beat Dole in 1996. And he trounced Dole, to be honest with you. It wasn't even close. And but the Democrats, if they were smart, they would come back to the right. They would come back to the center, but they're not going to do it. This party is gone, long gone. Folks, that video of those people, this fighter, pick your fighter stuff, and Elmo and the vampire, and what was the other one? Cookie Monster walking around trying to save NPR. And these Democrats with that video all saying the exact same word with the exact same tone to the exact same beat. And then you've got the networks, them sitting on their hands for, this wonderful 13-year-old kid, the young kid that got into West Point. They didn't even move. They couldn't even be happy about anything. I got one thing I want to share with you tonight, because we are going to deal with this hard next week. Before you leave me tonight, this is President Trump, and I wanted to talk about this more tonight. I'm going to talk about it Monday night. Ricky Wilson's going to be with me. She's going to be on early, though, because she's got something. to do. So she's going to be on at 7 o'clock Eastern Monday. So we got an early bird special, but we'll have a late night. Well, I say late night, a later night show. This is leadership. Shalom, Hamas. It means hello and goodbye. You can choose. I'm not trying to laugh at this, folks. This is President Trump just 2 days ago. And this is the difference between the country we had for the last 4 years and the country we've got tonight. You can choose. Because all of the hostages, release all the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all of the dead bodies of the people you murdered, or it is over for you. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you are sick and twisted. President Trump has something called moral clarity. I wish some of these prophets would get some moral clarity, and some of these voices in the church would get moral clarity. It's amazing how President Trump understands this thing. I know he does. Everybody's worried about his spiritual advisory board. Well, I guess if President Trump has got this kind of moral clarity, I'm not so much worried about his spiritual advisory board, because he's understanding the situation better than most spiritual leaders. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you are sick and twisted. I am sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. Not a single Hamas member will be safe if you don't do as I say. I have just met with your former hostages, and he did. This was a meeting he had yesterday. This came out yesterday, and what they told him got him fired up, whose lives you have destroyed. This is your last warning. For the leadership, now is the time to leave Gaza while you still have a chance. Also, to the people of Gaza, a beautiful future awaits, but not if you hold hostages. I want you to look at these last words, folks. If you do, you are dead. You're a dead man. Make a smart decision. Release the hostages now, or there will be hell to pay later. There will be hell to pay later.
Watson.
I got a better one, though. I got a better one than that. I have got a better one than that for the Hamas leadership.
Understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
I think that is Trump's. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? We're going to talk about this Monday night. We ain't talking about Israel in a while. We're going to talk about this Monday night. And we encourage you to be with us. I would not want to be Hamas. And what Trump is basically saying, there was one report I saw on the World News headlines out of Jerusalem tonight. The IDF has been given assurances by the United States that we are going to, if we need to, we will send people over there to help them hunt down these Hamas terrorists. Right now, the latest count we've got is 59 hostages. It is unlikely that only but 24 of them are still alive. That means 35 of them are dead. That's just brutality. Trump has made it clear that Hamas, you either get out of Gaza or you're a dead man. You're going to be dead men. You're going to have the same fear on you that the cartels have got on them tonight. From Tom Homan. That's why I love President Trump. That's why I love President Trump. Couple of funny ones tonight before we go. Why do they look like they're about to lay a trap for Batman? I get the one in the middle looks like Penguin. I'm not sure what Pelosi looks like. Maybe Catwoman, maybe, I don't know. Al Green's just crazy. He's just a Joker. I guess he'd be the Joker. You got the Joker, the Penguin, and the Catwoman. You got the Joker, the Penguin, and the Catwoman. By the way, we'll talk about the investigation, because that's coming out. The report's coming out next week about the assassination. And the 13-year-old kid's an upgrade in the Secret Service. The 13-year-old kid is an upgrade to the Secret Service. Democrats, when funding Ukraine, they're screaming. But when asked to honor American children who fell victim to illegal aliens, sitting on their derrieres. It does look like they're laying a trap for Batman, does it not? That's pretty funny. That is pretty funny.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Couple of more, I'm out of here. Here is a great statement. This is Kevin Sorbo tonight. You own a store. Your store gets robbed. Elon looks at the video footage of the robbery and tells you who did it. Now, you want to arrest Elon. His words, not mine. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. And these people that are opposing Elon Musk, folks, and yes, these people in the church claiming he's the 666 harbinger and all this other crap, I'll just leave it at that.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
It's elementary, my dear Watson. Elementary, my dear Watson. Couple of things tonight. We talked about this morning on the Bible study. Our prayers for Alaska or Australia tonight. The hurricane cyclone Alfred has basically come ashore. I do want to show you something that is the most bizarrest thing I've ever seen in the history of tracking hurricanes and studying hurricanes. I'm a storm chaser and I love the weather. This storm, this is the path it took. Went east. Now it's the southern hemisphere, so everything is a little bit reversed. Storms down there rotate clockwise. Our storms here rotate counterclockwise. They're called cyclones and typhoons. In the Indian Ocean, they're called cyclones down in the part of Australia. This was Cyclone Alfred. It was really a Category 2 hurricane. But this is the most bizarre path I've ever seen in my life, where it went east and took a journey due south, almost southwest, and then turned around and went due west right into Queensland and Brisbane, and that's the east coast. And that was taken just a few days ago. That storm is on shore this morning and tonight. It's now been downgraded to an X-cyclone, so it's no longer got cyclone. We're trying to... Cleo sent a text this morning, I guess, or sometime today. She's okay. But 250,000 people have lost power there. We're praying that there's not been any death, and our prayers for the people in Australia tonight. And we hope nothing too bad will come of Alfred. One other quick thing, on a personal note, I want to wish a very, very, very happy anniversary to this guy right here. This is some pictures that they took of their wedding day. That is my son Brandon. Now the song behind it is a song we're going to be doing. I had put I found this today. I was doing some house cleaning, and that's him and Alyssa back in 2016, 9 years ago today. They were united, or this week, they were united in holy matrimony, and I want to tell my son happy anniversary. He's got a birthday coming up next week. I got 3 birthday boys next week. I got Caleb's the 12th, Elias, David is the 15th, and Brandon is the 18th. So March is birthday month in the McDonald household. I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. I want to go out again, letting you know how I feel about the country tonight. And I hope you do too. I'll see you this weekend, Sunday morning. Until then, good night.
Elementary, my dear Watson.